What is going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Christian Shad. What's going on, fellas?
What's good? What's good? Glad to be back.
It's good. We're back with another week. Obviously, we're another week closer to the NFL season. College football kicked off last weekend, and really kicking off this weekend with on Saturday at least, starting with the Texas and Ohio State.
Big game.
Really to start a season in the history of college football, really. So very exciting times to get into. Obviously, on the NFL side of things, we've gone through the cut down days. One of the tougher days, I'm sure, in the league, as well as gone through the start of teams building out their practice squads and filling out the rest of their roster. So today we'll get into, as we did last week, get into our AFC preview, talk about the runner-up Kansas City Chiefs, who have a newly married or newly engaged player on their team, as well as get into our MVPs and the rest of our awards, and then finally end off with how we think the playoffs is going to shake out. But man, what a week! Guys, it's getting closer and closer. Obviously, like I said, we did have cut down day a couple days ago. Was there any surprise cuts before we get into the previews? Was there any surprise cuts for you guys that you thought, it was like, it might be time for that player, or maybe it was good for them to get a new change of scenery? Did you guys think there were any surprise cuts this past week?
I'm trying to think. Honestly, I can't say that any surprising cuts. Not really.
I mean, this guy didn't get cut, but he was clearly going to get cut. He ended up getting traded. Adam Thielen. That was a very much shocker.
No, he wasn't getting cut. He wasn't.
I think he would have got cut. I mean,
he was a leading receiver.
No shot.
He the number one receiver, really.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that, but I don't think they were planning on going into the season with him as the number one receiver.
I mean, yeah, I don't think they would have cut him.
Not number one receiver, but I mean, you get traded for a fourth on cut down day. You weren't getting cut.
Man, look, you said it yourself. The Vikings crazy, bro. That's all I'm gonna say.
They were.
I mean, trading the fourth for him is crazy. It is, but I don't think he was getting cut.
But that was a bit of a surprise for sure. And good for him getting traded back to his, original team as well.
Interesting choice for that Panthers receiving group, which, I guess that shows a lot of faith that they have in Coker. But, you kind of got rid of your veterans in there with Hunter Renfrow, releasing him and then trading Thielen. So it's a lot on Tet. I think, he's good. So I'm sure he can handle it, but it will be a lot on Tet because I don't think Xavier Leggett is I don't think he's that guy. But we'll see. We'll see.
We shall. But they also, they like Jimmy Horn too, it seems. And I don't think Hunter Renfrow was ever really
going to make the roster.
Because being slot strictly and not much of a special teams guy, I think it was a long shot for him.
That's right.
But I think, honestly, I don't know if it was necessarily surprises, but like some of the rookies that got cut, like Paul, obviously the linebacker for the Rams, Damian Martinez getting cut from the Seahawks, the running back coming out of Miami. That was especially because, he did have some pretty decent showings in preseason as well. I don't know if it's necessarily a surprise because I think we knew this was coming, but Kenny Pickett getting traded again, it's got a great between him and Sam Howell, they've both been moved around twice this offseason already. Mm-hmm. And Kenny Pickett, for being a former first round, quarterback, his career is just kind of, they quickly decided that he was a backup. It's like he's got no shot otherwise to prove it. So, that kind of sucks for him given his age. I know that, I don't think any of us think that he's any type of special. Maybe Chris, Super Bowl champion, gotta show a little love there. But
Super Bowl champion,
but that to me, just not necessarily the price tag of it, but just for the fact that he's moving again, it's like, God damn, dog, like don't nobody want you 4 teams in a year, basically, is crazy.
I mean, yeah, that's tough, especially for him, because I don't even think it was performance based. It was more because he wasn't, he's been injured. But at the same time, it's like, hey, we ain't seen shit from you. We ain't seen shit from you for the previous year, so we might as well just let you go. And I mean, he's going to Vegas. Is he gonna get a show in there? Probably not. Tough for that man.
I'm excited to talk a little bit about Vegas and kind of see where everybody thinks they're going to land. But we can kind of get into that, into the previews. One more thing that I do want to add before we do so. Well, two things, actually. Last week we said we made a mistake and said that the Protector of the Year award, they did it last year. They did not. This is the first official year for it. We were kind of talking a little fast, so that was just maybe a loss in translation on us. So do want to clarify that. But second thing, we did officially also get word on the final QB battle going on in New Orleans with Spencer Rattler officially winning. I think we all kind of speculated that it was going to be Spencer last week, but did just want to clear that up for anybody that didn't know. Being the last QB, technically there really was only two, if you really, because the Colts obviously, and then I guess I don't know if we really want to count the Browns as a QB battle because it doesn't really seem like they ever.
No, Flacco was the guy from the jump.
Flacco was the guy, and to me, it kind of seems like Deshaun Watson is the guy for real. Like that, because Stefanski was talking about Deshaun Watson the other day. Like I ain't never heard him talk about. Maybe he's like, I've seen the quarterbacks that he got right now, and Deshaun is, hey, come on back. Like we need you.
That's crazy.
But starting with our previews, obviously, like last week, we started off with the Super Bowl champs in their division. So I think it's only right that we follow up with starting with the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, last time we saw them, they were getting their heads beat in by the Philadelphia Eagles. But a lot of changes that has happened in the AFC West, obviously with Geno Smith coming over, a big injury to the Chargers in their left tackle with Rashawn Slater going down. So it could be a pretty interesting shakeup. Maybe if you guys pick somebody else other than the Chiefs to win this year. I'm excited to hear. Chris, you want to go ahead and get us kicked off?
Yeah, man, I get us kicked off. Starting at 4, man, I got the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think they're going to be bad this year. I actually think they're going to do much better than they did last year. I think with the addition of, obviously, Pete Carroll, with Geno Smith, they should get a significant boost. I just think in general, it is a tougher division. Maybe not as tough as maybe you might think of like a AFC North, but I mean, I still think you still got good teams in this division, and I think they're still going to compete. There is not going to be no 3-4 win team, nothing like that. But I still have them coming in at 4. For 3, I got the Denver Broncos. Specifically, I have them above the Raiders just because of their defense. Their defense is legit. They got legit players on that side. Offensively, I think Bo Nix is a decent quarterback. I'm not going to say good, great, or indifferent. I think he's a decent quarterback. I can see the hype somewhat, but that's just not my forte. So I ain't putting too much stock in. I got to see it again. I got to see it this year, see how he progresses. But I have them over the Raiders solely because I just believe they got one of the best defense in the league. Number 2, I got the Los Angeles Chargers. I think that left tackle, Rashawn Slater, that injury will hurt them in the long run in general. But Justin Herbert, he's still a good quarterback. Jim Harbaugh is still a good coach, and they have a good defense. And I think that this year, Justin Herbert gonna show me a little something. Let me not say it. Some people like Shaq, he the best. I just play, but I think he's gonna show up for real this year. I think he's gonna a little preview. I think he's gonna win his first playoff game. But anyway, I think he's gonna have a good year this year. Still solid team, solid all the way around. But I still gotta give the nod to Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, I think Patrick Mahomes, one of the few years he come in, maybe feeling like he had to prove himself. You got some people who believe, obviously he had a down years, maybe in their opinion, the last 2 as far as statistical goals. I mean, obviously, like y'all already spoke, you could say down year, but you make it to Super Bowl every year. I mean, what is really a down year? But it's a otherwise proven that division cannot knock him out. So I cannot not have him number 1.
Yeah. I mean, him and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce, and we got to add Chris Jones into that. I mean, that's been the staple for the past few years, and we'll see if the rest of us have it the same way as well.
Can't be mad. Can't be mad.
All right. I'm gonna kick it off. Probably it might be a little surprising. I don't know, but at 4, I do have the Broncos. Now, I'm not saying they'll be like you said. I'm gonna be a 3-14 like the rate, like you said for the Raiders. I think this is a 7-win team though, this season, and I think that's purely I love their defense. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just not a believer in Bo. not quite. And the offense. I mean, we'll see if the running game can develop. We'll see what RJ Harvey is. We'll see how much Evan Ingram helps him, being that, everybody talks about the Joker, being the new Joker on the team now. But I got him at 4 because I'm a little higher on the Raiders this season. Probably higher than most. But I do have them at 3. I really like, Pete Carroll's is one of my favorite coaches, overall. Damn good coach. You go out and get I don't want to say proven quarterback, but he is a veteran quarterback that can lead a team. You go out and get Geno. Now Geno does do some Geno things sometimes, but you still have Brock Bowers. They still have both those tight ends, Michael Mayer, and I think that's going to be a problem for a lot of teams. And if Ashton Genty is anything like his draft stock says, they're going to be a problem on offense to stop. Defense is a different story. But again, you do have a player like Max Crosby, who is a 100% snap guy, and you do feel better at the end of the day when he's out there. So we'll see kind of how the defense comes along, but that's why I have him at 3 and not higher. At 2, I do have the Chargers. Again, like a lot of those, they brought a lot of their defense back. They changed some things up, of course. Bosa's gone and stuff like that, but I still think this is another step forward for Justin Herbert. Another step, another year working under Harbaugh, just having that continuity. And we've seen Jim Harbaugh, like especially when year after year, when he gets more continuity, he's a great coach as well. And I think that will prove this season. But of course, I gotta have the Chiefs at 1. I don't really think it'll be that close. I think last year was a 4-5 game buffer. I could see the same thing happening this season, to be honest with you. I mean, you already said what you need to say about the Chiefs. Leave it at that.
Listen, I mean, I feel like the 2 teams at the bottom have kind of been the 2 teams at the bottom for, the past decade or so, really since Peyton Manning left the Broncos. So it's kind of been, even though they were good last year, I mean, I feel like it's kind of been that, and, the 2 teams at the top, aside from the Chargers one down year, I mean, it's basically been the same 2 teams. So I mean, it's basically going to say the same as well. So I, at 2, have the Raiders at 4. I really do like the team. I won't say like the team. I would say that I like the moves that they've made. Obviously, bringing in Geno. They did just sign Amari Cooper to bring him back to the place that he was drafted to a couple of days ago, which could possibly mean that Jacoby Myers, who we just found out requested a trade, could be out the door. I know that there's been some speculation that he could possibly return back to New England. That remains to be seen over the next couple of days. But to me, it does seem like the Raiders are trying to more. It kind of feels to me that they're trying more to establish a culture and something sustainable, as opposed to truly feeling like, hey, we are a Super Bowl.
Go for it now.
We're a contender or a team that can really compete. And the reason that I say that is just some of the moves that they make. Obviously, bringing in Amari Cooper on the 1-year deal and possibly trading Jacoby Myers would kind of be the cherry on top. I know that they brought in Geno, but he is a little bit of an older quarterback. Obviously, being able to continue to have him while you maybe draft a quarterback next year, and you could kind of continue that progression where you have Ashton and the 2 young receivers that they have, as well as Brock Bowers and Mayer at the tight end position. But their defense, aside from Crosby, is, we'll see if Tyree Wilson ends up becoming something, the former top 10 pick for him. But, getting rid of Christian Wilkins, like at the time, it was weird at the time, obviously, because of the stories that came out and the speculation around it, which there really hasn't been much conversation over the past
quiet
couple
as shit
weeks.
about that, hasn't
And
it?
you would think that it would be, which is what I was actually hinting at the beginning of the show when I was like, we'll talk about it. It's been very quiet for, one, a lot of people thought that he might sign or, sign with the Giants or sign with XYZ team, right away. But that obviously hasn't happened. And, I just feel like getting off of a guy like that, as well as getting off of Bennett, trading him to the Philadelphia Eagles, who was a top corner for them last year. Some of the starters that they did have last year obviously moved on as well on defense. I just don't think the defense is completely there just yet. Maybe that remains to be seen. Maybe the coaching staff works its magic, but I still think that they're trying to build something up there. At 3, I also have the Broncos. Same thing. I don't necessarily believe in Bo Nix, but I do believe in Sean Payton. And I do think that he'll keep them a good competitive team, but I think that eventually, last year it didn't come to bite them in the butt, partly due to Jonathan Taylor dropping a ball on an easy touchdown that ended up becoming a touchback, partly because the Bengals, well, actually they lost against the Bengals, but the Chiefs, resting their starters that ended up allowing them to get into the playoffs. But there was a lot of games where, especially that Colts game, that game being a team going against a team that didn't have a good defense. Bo Nix was not in a must-win game. Bo Nix was terrible. And, it just so happened that the Colts were even more terrible down the stretch to kind of let them off the hook there. But there are some things that I saw from Bo Nix, and he was a rookie, so I don't want to be too hard on him. But I just think that on top of the fact that the receiving group is not necessarily one of the best, their running back group is not necessarily one of the best. It's not like they have a stalwart. I mean, I know that Cortland Sutton is a good player, but they don't necessarily have like a guy that you're like, oh, yeah, we got to really worry about him on offense. I think that could hurt them a lot, and it's just a lot of reliance on Sean Payton. I, too, have the Chargers at 2, so no, where nobody's going crazy and having the Chiefs not winning the division here. Rashawn Slater getting hurt pretty much like, even if you did it, for me personally, even if I did have any type of, maybe the Chargers could do it this year, it went out the window the moment that he got hurt, and we'll see how they kind of, and it's not only him that's been hurt. Their whole team has kind of been hurt throughout the entirety of the preseason. Najee Harris, it sounds like they got some good news on him, so he'll be there week 1 possibly. But I still think that the receiver position, obviously bringing in Keenan Allen late in the game, relying on him to kind of be a contributor, I'm not too sure about that. I am not sure about Greg Roman as an offensive coordinator just at all as a whole. And, I think he's okay. I just don't think that he's the type of guy that can, obviously he has a cap to him, in my opinion. And obviously I have the Chiefs at number 1. I don't need to say too much about him. Congrats, Travis Kelce. Congrats, Taylor Swift as well on the recent engagement. But obviously team been to 3 straight Super Bowls. Getting blown out in 1, Travis playing in my face and not retiring like he really wanted to. I think that they will get all of that. Well, not a Super Bowl, but I think that they will have another good season. Travis will be able to go out on a higher note than he did last year, hopefully, if it's his last season. This time he does. He has actually been hinting at it a little bit more. But I just think the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and eventually they will figure it out whether they start off slow or not. And I just don't think the rest of the teams will. So. Got the Chiefs winning the division, and we'll see as we get into our playoff preview later if we will have multiple teams in the playoffs from the division. But getting into the AFC South, obviously a division that has a new quarterback in Danny Dimes with the Indianapolis Colts. We brought over a Heisman Trophy winner in Travis Hunter coming to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Houston Texans have made a lot of moves. Obviously, the number 1 overall draft pick as well coming into the division. Could make for a pretty interesting division this year. And we also got to get into, if you guys want to, or you could leave it up to me if you want, we can get into the quarterback battle in Indianapolis as well. But Chris, go ahead and kick us off. Who you got falling where and why?
All right. So starting off at 4, I got the Titans. Yes, they do have the number 1 overall pick. I expect Cam Ward to uplift that offense, but I still think that they're missing pieces in general. So, and again, it's his first year. I'm not one of those people who just gonna go out on a limb. I don't expect like too much like in general because of a rookie quarterback coming in. You still gotta get in the groove of things, feel how the NFL feels. So he might have a little shaky start, but I think he's gonna have a good rookie year. 3, I got the Colts coming in. I don't like Danny Dimes personally. That's just me. He been in my division this whole time. I never liked him. That's just me. So I don't know. I would have preferred Anthony Richardson, but I mean, hey, Shane, he know he fucking doing, I guess. So I like the move. I like the move that y'all made on defense in general. Getting on Ward from San Francisco. I think our defense is going to be pretty good, probably above average, but it's all about Danny Dimes at this point for me. I mean, y'all got weapons on offense. Is he gonna get the ball to him? I don't know. You could probably talk about that a little more. You done, probably been obviously more in tune to y'all camp and y'all preseason games. But that's just my opinion. Fuck that nigga.
That's crazy.
Coming in second, I had
He seems
Jacksonville.
like a nice guy.
He probably is. But coming in second, I had Jacksonville Jaguars. Their offense, I believe, is probably going to be explosive. With the addition of Travis Hunter, obviously, Bryant Thomas having a great rookie year last year. It's kind of same with them as far as what I just said about y'all. It's on Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if their defense will be any good. I think they'd be okay, but it's gonna be on Trevor Lawrence. I mean, this is kind of one of them. I'm not gonna say make or break type of season, but this is kind of he gonna be on the hot seat now. If he keep fucking around, he gonna be on the hot seat this year for real. So I'm expecting him. He got some weapons. I'm expecting him to do a little something this year. So we're gonna see how that works. And coming number one, I got Houston. I understand. Obviously Joe Mixon. We don't know if that man gonna ever play this year, but I think what slept on a lot is Nick Chubb this year.
Play again.
But I think one of the slept things is Nick Chubb. I understand, obviously he had an injury and he was coming back last year. Obviously he didn't play much or whatnot. But I think it's one of the things where, rest and time are only gonna help him. And I think I'm not gonna say he's gonna be like top 5 running back, but he's gonna be very serviceable for it. And that's gonna help out CJ Stroud a lot. I like their obviously their defense is up under D'Amico Ryans is still formidable, got good players over there. So I think they're gonna come on top this year again to win the division.
So, and their defensive end, I think, is one of the favorites right now to be Defensive Player of the Year as well, Will Anderson. So we'll see if that comes to fruition.
We'll see. All right. So not too different. Especially at the bottom, I got the Titans coming in at 4. It would surprise me if they're a lot better than people think they are, but because they do have a good offensive line, seems like it's a very good synergy between Calvin Ridley and Cam Ward, which is important. We'll see if the other receivers can kind of step up. Shad and I went to that joint practice they had in Atlanta with the Falcons, and we were kind of searching for that guy to show up, and clearly they've been searching all season, all preseason, for that guy to kind of step up and be that number 2. So we'll kind of see if that comes to fruition. But this defense really concerns me. Snead is supposedly getting back healthy, but at the same time, how much can you trust that going into the season? And that's a big piece for your secondary. I know you have Jeff up front. It's still not enough for me. So I got the Titans coming in at 4. At 3, I do have the Colts as well, Chris, mainly because of the Danny Dimes factor. And I just think it could get very mucky depending on how he plays. He could play well, but if he doesn't, it's going to lead to a lot of questions. You kind of have the same kind of shit you had last year when it's like, okay, who do we start this week against this team? And we'll see how that kind of shakes out. I know, Shane came out and said that Daniel's our starter. He doesn't have a short leash and all that stuff, but, we'll see. Yeah. Coach Speak. But at 2, I had the Texans. And look, I know the Texans have kind of won that division last couple of years, but this offseason hasn't been too pretty for them. Like you said, it's a very questionable things going on right now with Joe Mixon. We don't know what's going on there. We'll kind of see who steps up in that backfield. They do have options, but we'll see how much Nick Chubb can actually help. You got Damian Pierce, you got the rookie, and Woody. And of course, CJ and Nico are a fantastic tandem together. And then you do have that defensive line but at the same time, I just think the offensive line still isn't good enough to really compete. The defense can be as good as they want to, but if you're struggling, if CJ's back there taking bad sacks and back there making bad decisions, on holding the ball too long. I know they have a new offense, so it's supposed to look different. We'll see. He's been talking it up, but I just don't believe it. Yeah, I got to see it to believe it, to be honest with you. So at 1, I do have the Jags. I think Liam Cohen comes in and makes a statement in his first year there. And it's not like the Jags have a bad team. That's part of the reason why, Doug was fired. Because it's like you have pieces. Like the defense was supposed to be as bad as it was. Like it really wasn't. But of course, you go in, you bring in Travis Hunter, who I think is going to have a magnificent season for them as long as he stays healthy. You still have your pieces on offense with Trevor, with BTJ, a young up-and-coming tight end, and Brenton Strange that not a lot of people are talking about, but he is going to be one of those guys this season for them, I think. And I just think they can end up winning that division. I think they'll surprise some people this year. So I do have the Jags coming in at winning that division.
That would be a sight to see because, I mean, y'all know how I feel about Travis.
Yeah, hey, I was just about to say Travis winning division first year.
Travis in the playoffs. Let's see it.
Hey, it's spooky.
Hey.
It's not like it's a knock on them necessarily because there were some good players that were dropped. But as Cass mentioned, I did see them enjoy practice. I don't think the Falcons have a good secondary, and the Falcons were locking them up. I think that was enough to see. I was like, and the funny thing about it is Tyler Lockett, I think, practiced the whole time, and I was like, damn, is Tyler Lockett not practicing today? I had no clue until I saw him his number at the game. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if he'll be able to get Calvin Ridley the ball like that, even though he does have him being Cam Ward, even though he does have a really good offensive line. I think that Tony Pollard will have a good season as well in the running back room, but they're also banged up there with Tajay Spears. Defense, as you mentioned, L'Jarius Sneed was a guy, I wasn't super high on him in the past. And I think that his injuries have only kind of hurt over the past couple seasons. And obviously there was a lot of rumors about him having knee injuries or knee problems anyway when he was in free agency. And I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of that. So I do not have the Colts at 3. I actually have the Jacksonville Jaguars at 3. So switching up from you guys a little bit. I want to believe in Jacksonville so bad, and I know that I've talked about it a lot.
Come on.
I want to believe him in bad, and I do. I want to believe in Trevor. It's just Jacksonville is Jacksonville. It hasn't mattered who has been there. It hasn't mattered who the quarterback is. It hasn't mattered what their talent has looked like. On top of the fact that Travis has already hurt or been nicked, Brian Thomas Jr. throughout the entirety of training camp was in and out of practice getting nicked. So I don't know how that bodes well for his health. I also mentioned in the past about Trevor and his concussion history. He's also been somebody that's been hurt over his entirety of his career. And then Tyson Campbell on the defensive end is also hurt at cornerback. So I would love to believe in them. And I like Liam Cohen. I like some of the people. They are trying to figure out their running back room as well. I just can't, with the injuries already hitting right now, especially the key players, I just cannot believe in it right now. And as Chris mentioned, I think that Trevor could have a good season and they still be where they're at in third in division, but he needs to have a good season or it's going to be a summer of, possibly is he going to the Colts? Is he going to the Steelers? Those are the Browns. These are the teams right now that are in that quarterback conversation right now. So I think that he needs to have a big season. I'm not going to say that he's going to have a bad season, but I do think that we will end up in a position at the end of this season where we're having a lot of questions about Jacksonville moving forward. At 2, I have the Indianapolis Colts. I have the Indianapolis Colts. I really, to be quite honest with you, I really don't have too much to add on everything that people have been saying about the quarterback battle. Biggest thing that I have to add is that people probably have not been talking about enough, even though this is, everybody knows it. Daniel Jones, and I'm not trying to, ironically, I do have on an Anthony Richardson jersey right now, and it wasn't to be like that, but Daniel Jones didn't win the quarterback battle by his play. Daniel Jones won the quarterback battle because Shane Steichen is scared shitless for his job. Chris Ballard is scared shitless for his job. And fair or unfair to Anthony, whatever the case may be, he was already at a point where he had to be perfect this offseason. He's lost trust with Shane Steichen when he did the tap out for whatever reasons. Obviously, I have a different what I believe versus what everybody else has believed. Obviously the injuries that have happened over the past couple years, getting injured in or having the shoulder soreness during OTAs, one knockdown. Then having the missed blitz heard around the world that everybody wanted to talk about and have their own input in it. Then you had some quarterbacks in here saying one thing, professional quarterbacks being like, all right, bro, y'all are bugging. Like, it's not that deep. Like, it was just a big mess. Anthony hurt his pinky or whatever, dislocated whatever finger it was another big notch. I think the moment that he got hit, it was over for him. And the biggest thing the Colts keep saying, even today, is trust, trust, trust. And I think it ultimately came down to the fact that Shane Steichen is scared shitless for his job. There's been applied pressure to him from, maybe the new owners or maybe just the fact that, maybe because there's new ownership, even though maybe they have not necessarily said anything, him and Chris Ballard are like, all right. And you can see that from the moves they made, bringing in Xavier Howard. They're talking about bringing in Mike Hilton. The Colts got rid of their second-round pick from a few years ago due to injuries, which is something that hasn't been common in the Chris Ballard era, just giving up on somebody so early. Obviously, the same thing with Anthony Richardson. So I say all that to say Daniel Jones starting did not change anything about how I felt about how the season going. Regardless, I think we were going to see both of the quarterbacks from whether Anthony got hurt or didn't play up to par, or Daniel Jones gets hurt or doesn't play up to par. I do think that Daniel is going to be better than what a lot of people think, because if you go back and watch some film from the Giants over the past few years, it is bad. What he was actually working with on top of him. So I think the Colts, as I've said a couple times, the Colts, in my opinion, sneakily have a top 10 receiving room if you also include the tight ends. If AD breaks out, we're talking about possibly having conversations about top 5, and that's if AD breaks out. Now, he has to break out and be what people think that he can be. If he's just, what he's been, he might be gone next year too. But between the DB room, I think the DB room will be really good. I think the D-line will be good. I think the Colts will be exactly what they've been. Maybe start hot, finish slowly, or start slow and finish strong. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to be a 8 to 9 win team that is going to disappoint very, very hard at the end, be in playoff contention the last 3 weeks, and lose to the Browns and Shadur. So that's
crazy.
So whether it was Anthony or Daniel Jones, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And next year, they are going to be in the market for everybody new. And then finally, that leaves us with the Houston Texans by default.
Fair.
I really do like their roster, but I do not. Obviously, I'm not a huge fan of what their offensive line looks like right now. Their defense is stout, much like I've talked about, like the Vikings and the Seahawks, when we're talking about like top to bottom, like depth on top of players and possible stars. I think their defense has potential to be the best defense in the league. They obviously have Nico Collins, who has to prove that he can stay healthy throughout the entirety of the season. And then the offensive line, they've got to prove that they can protect CJ Stroud. I don't know. I do love Nick Chubb. I'm a Georgia boy. Between the offensive line, the changes, him coming to a new scenery, I could see him being serviceable, like Chris said. I don't know if it's enough. But obviously, by default, I think they still win division with 9 wins, 10 wins, fighting with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Colts in the end. And then both of those two teams flounder like they almost. So I got Houston winning again, which makes for the playoff matchups are going to be a little bit interesting. So they will be my division winner. But yeah, getting into the AFC North, or actually the AFC East. Obviously, the Bills have dominated the division for the past few years, but we do have new blood with a new starting quarterback. With Drake May coming in, obviously he wasn't starting last year at this point in time. Also bringing Justin Fields over to the New York Jets with a new head coach as well. and Mike Vrabel entering the fold as well. So very interesting to see if people think that Buffalo will retain or if they will flounder. But who you guys got and why? Chris, go ahead and kick us off.
All right, so truth be told, it's probably one of the harder ones I had to do, just because of a lot of the turnover that has happened in this division. But coming in at 4, I do have the Jets. I do love their defense. I like Aaron Glenn as a head coach. We all seen what Justin Field has been these past few years. We can't deny. I can't lie. Act like he was any kind of good. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he play this year. I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping he can show us some things or whatever. But as of right now, I do have them coming in 4th. Coming in 3rd, I have the Patriots. I do like their offseason. I like the additions that they made on defense. I do think Drake May is a good quarterback. Maybe Stephon Diggs can come out and show us what he really about. Maybe he's not too old. And obviously, Vrabel. I mean, we all know him from his Tennessee days. I mean, he's a good coach. He's a player's coach. He's gonna ask the best out of everybody in the situation. I just think maybe his first year here in the Patriots. You got a lot of things to correct, fix, or whatnot. So that's why I don't have him at 2, pushing for 2. And 2, I got the Dolphins. I mean, that's strictly off of talents. I don't like that team for real. I honestly, I don't know what they got going on. This might not be a good season for them. Even if they come in at 2, it's gonna be some changes that have to be made by the end of the year. I can see that happening. But I still gotta give respect to that offense. I mean, that offense when playing, certain team, they are the most high powered motherfuckers out there, and and they see other teams, they just fold up. But I mean, I can see them, still churning out W's enough to get to second place. And obviously, first play, I got the Bills right now. They just been dominant in the division. I don't see no reason to pull them back from being number 1. To say that they're as good as they have been in other years, I mean, only time will tell. But Josh Allen, man, reigning MVP. You gotta come out here and do what you gotta do. So I got the Bills still at 1 this time.
All right. Not too different from you, Chris. I got the Jets at 4. Yeah, the stuff we heard this preseason out of the Jets camp, and we talked about on this podcast a couple weeks ago, it does not look good at all. And even in the preseason games that Justin Fields and the offense did play, like, okay, you can run the ball. So that means that you're script specific. That means if you get down, what's it really going to look like? And I think they can get in trouble really fast there. The defense still has their pieces. Of course, we love their defense, and we've been talking about it. They had a little bit of a down season last season, but that was just like just everything was just fucked up last season for them. But I still have them at 4. I just think that Justin Fields and that offense just won't be able to score enough and move the ball enough. At 3, I had the Patriots, just like you, Chris. Of course, I like the additions that they've made. They definitely brought some vets in to kind of, build it around Drake May. But I still think they're a year away from being in like true contention in the AFC, which is not a bad thing. I mean, you're still searching for, I know they brought in Stephon Diggs, but you still start searching for that guy for Drake May. And we'll see who kind of emerges. It's looking like Stephon Diggs will be there week 1, which is wild, especially at the age of 31 or 32, wherever he is, coming back from ACL that quickly. So shout out to him. And his work ethic, but I just don't think they're there yet. But Travion Henderson could be one of the ones. We'll kind of see how that progresses. He might change the script on all of that, as well as Drake May, of course, with his progression. At 2, I also had the Dolphins. I think I said this like last week, a couple weeks ago. I don't think they'll be as bad as everybody says they are, but I don't think they're truly competing in the AFC as well. It could be interesting to see how it all shakes out. And of course, they still had that narrative going around, but I still like their offense. I still think Tyreek Hill can turn around and have a really good season. It's seeming like Jalen Waddle, as long as he stays healthy as well, it seems like they're getting on track to him and Tua. And then the defensive line, we talked about it. I really like the defensive line that they have. They brought in a little bit of depth with Judah, and of course, they made some moves at cornerback. We'll see how it works out, but at least they went out and got some corners because it was looking a little bad. So we'll see if those are the right moves. But I think they'll be a solid team to kind of just stick around a little bit, just be a little pesky how they've been kind of against certain matchups. So at 1, I do have the Bills. Can't shake that. They the best team in this division, and again, kind of like I said for the Chiefs, I don't think it's going to be that close. I just think they're on a different level from the rest of them. We'll kind of see how things are after that when we get to the playoffs and all that. But I do think they still make good work of this division pretty easily.
Interesting. And shout out Jordan Poyer heading back to Buffalo, signing with them on the practice squad after a year in Miami.
Get DeMar Hamlin out that starting lineup, please.
I don't know if that's gonna happen. I think
him or Cole Bishop. I don't know.
Probably a trade that's gonna need to be made there. But starting off, I also have the Jets. I do not believe in Justin Fields. I never believed in Justin Fields. Unfortunately, which is funny because when he, once again, I said, as you guys know, I'm a Georgia fan. Wanted Justin Fields to work out so badly with UGA, and everybody was saying, from people that I know, they were saying like slow processor, blah blah blah. I was like, nah, that's bullshit. I'm like, that's bullshit. And the fact of the matter is that we're like 7 years later, and it's still the same thing. He's been with 3 NFL teams. It's still the same thing. For you to get benched for Russell Wilson, no disrespect to Russ, but like, I don't know, man. I don't know where, similar to the Colts and another team that I mentioned before, they kind of acting with a little bit of arrogance that they don't really haven't earned yet. I don't know where they got off being like, we're going to shit on Aaron Rodgers to prop up Justin Fields and give him the week 1 starter with no competition. That to me seems a little odd, but hey, I got him at 4. At 3, I have the Miami Dolphins.
Hey.
I do not believe. It sounds, based on everything that's come out, it sounds like the vibes are just completely off. Sure. I know that we said that we do like and I've said it as well, that we do like the D-line group, especially the edge rushers. But, I am also, as you guys know, I am big on not only just listening to what coaches say, but watching how all the moves shake out and what's going on. Signing Matthew Judon this late in the game, when you already have 3 edge rushers, 1 young guy, another young guy that's trying to make, one super young guy in Chop Robinson, another young guy in Jalen Phillips, who's, trying to get back into the swing of things. Maybe it is just simply depth, considering that Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips is hurt or have been hurt over the past few years. Or maybe Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb aren't necessarily looking the best coming off of injury. I don't know. I just don't think, based on everything that's come out of that camp, I just cannot believe them. I just cannot believe in them. Tyreek Hill is still not practicing. That situation is still up in the air. So we just watched them struggle against like a 3rd-string defense with their 1st stringers. And it's preseason, and I know they're not going in there scheming up. They're not putting together a first 15. They're not doing too much, game planning or anything like that. It's a lot of vanilla stuff. So, I get it, but I don't believe the offense. At 2, I do have the New England Patriots. Love their DBs, obviously with Christian Gonzalez. And Carlton Davis coming over there. A guy that we didn't talk about too much when we were talking about our interior, our D lineman, but Christian Barrymore, him coming back, obviously he had some of the health issues last year. Him coming back, I think, could also be big, pairing with Mike Vrabel. Obviously, we saw the success that he had with Jeff Simmons in Tennessee. I do think that their receiver room is a little better than we actually think. With Diggs, I mean, you guys, once again, y'all know I wasn't the biggest Diggs guy, but I also do think that this is a better spot for him than where Houston was. I do like Kyle Williams a lot, and I think Pop Douglas is going to be a good player now that he's no longer the number 1 or the first option for them. And then if they do get Jacoby Myers, that adds to it as well. But I do think that they will be really good. And then ultimately, over the Dolphins, I just got the Mike Vrabel edge over Mike McDaniel. I just trust that more than Mike McDaniel, even though I do like Mike McDaniel. And, we're talking about Trevor. The conversation becomes very interesting with Tua, because if Tua doesn't work out, if the Dolphins don't make the playoffs, I think we all know Mike McDaniel's probably getting fired. He might even get fired if they do make the playoffs,
That's what I
depending on
think.
if they win a game or not. But, if things don't work out, like, does the next coach come in and believe in Tua, or if they do want to move off Tua, what teams start to become interested in him? Because not to say that he's a bad player, but a guy that, with the brain injuries that he's had, that has also kind of proven, like, once he gets past his first read in that offense, if you're not as good in that offense, then, where would you find success elsewhere? So I think that is going to be a very interesting conversation as we go through the year. And then Buffalo, really good team, bringing Joey Bosa over. Hopefully he can give them what Von Miller couldn't. Obviously, given his injuries after the first few weeks that he was there when he first signed, Von Miller was pretty good. And then, obviously getting hurt again. So we'll see if Joey Bosa can stay healthy and be able to kind of give that to them because, and we'll kind of get to that in the playoffs. But I got the Buffalo Bills winning the division. And we'll kind of see where it shakes out for them. But getting to the AFC North, this I expect will be pretty interesting given there's been 3 teams that have kind of been in the mix, really over the past few years since Joe Burrow and Lamar have been there. Then the Steelers have obviously been good and the Browns have been the Browns. But interested to see if anybody has the Browns winning the division. But Chris, why don't you go ahead and get us kicked off?
Yeah, I'm started off. Hey, man, they coming in fourth. Hey, we just talked about it, man. That quarterback situation. I mean, I understand Flacco is obviously the veteran in the room, but still, though, man, it's just I don't know what to expect out of that offense. I actually think their defense is gonna be good this year, only because it's the Jim Shorts trend. He be good one year, next year he bad, next year he good. So last year he was defense. It was alright. But I still think they're gonna come in fourth. I don't expect much from them. Like I know you might have been, you probably wasn't joking, but I mean I can see a world where Shador is eventually the starter at some point in time because Joe Flacco is probably gonna get hurt eventually, and then Dylan Gabriel. I mean he's all right, but I mean I just feel like eventually we'll see Shador Sanders. So that's how I got them going. 3, I got the Bengals. I know we were just talking about just preseason, but my God, I watched them against our second string defense. I mean, second string offense they was getting toe up. Like that defense is terrible. Like, I mean, their offense is good, sure. I mean, but then I also watched Joe Burrow run for his life behind that offensive line. So I don't know what the fuck to think about them. I think their offense is going to score hella points. I do believe that, but that defense. My God, that shit's ass. I'm sorry, that defense is bad. And again, like you said, Shot, preseason, vanilla. They ain't really running shit. But I watched my second team offense run through that defense like it wasn't nothing. And that's terrible. So that's why I got them. 2, I got the Steelers. Quite opposite. I love their defense. They got Jalen Ramsey. They got Slay over there now, and that defense has always been good. And obviously, for Mike Tomlin as a Steelers head coach, I mean he always getting them to the playoffs. So I can't. It's something stupid happens to them. I can't deny it. But again, this is all on Aaron Rodgers at this point in time. They put their eggs in that basket, so he gonna have to deliver. He gonna have to deliver. But I think they're gonna be good enough to be second in their division. Obviously, I got the Ravens number 1. They far and away better, higher class in all their whole division. I mean. Lamar's Lamar. That defense is, we all talked about it. We raved about it all year. Even with Jair being hurt or whatnot, that defense was still going to be great. Shout out to Kyle Hamilton with a new contract. But that team, they need to prove themselves this year. But I still think they're going to win the division. So
Yeah, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in the playoffs for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But at 4, go ahead.
One thing that we do need to add that we didn't say at the top of the show, Trey Hendrickson has officially signed with the Cincinnati Bengals. Since we are on the topic of the AFC North, he did fold and sign a 1-year contract with the Bengals to play there this year. We'll see what the soap opera looks like next year, but did want to go ahead and add that in just if anybody did not know.
I'm glad you brought it up because that's another reason why they're going to be asked, because I don't like the fact that they don't be practicing and stuff. Some players are obviously different, but that just calls for soft tissue injuries, in my opinion. You come in there, especially, they're going to need him. They need him. Get their ass. They need him. So he can't be on no pitch count. you play the full game, some shit can possibly happen. I pray it don't. I really do. But you did all that for that bullshit. But go ahead.
Yeah. I'm with you on 4. I got the Browns coming in at 4. I just don't think this is a quite a serious team at the moment. And they do have pieces, like you said, on defense. You know, of course, Myles Garrett. Of course, they got the rookies with Mason Graham, and they brought in Carson Schwarzenegger, who I think is going to be a very good linebacker, a middle linebacker in this league. But we'll kind of see how the injuries, if your DBs can stay healthy. That's a very important part of all of this. The offense, man, I just don't know. Your second round pick, you still haven't signed him. What are you doing here with Quinshon Judkins? Like, what are we doing? It's still a lot of question marks about their receiving group. Like, I know Jerry Jeudy came on strong, and it's reported that he has a great relationship with Flacco, great connection. You got Cole, you got Njoku and all them people there, but I just don't think it all comes together. I just think it's going to be a very silly operation this whole season. I'm looking forward to it though, because at 3 I had the Steelers.
Because like you love the Bengals, but go ahead.
I got the Steelers at 3. I like their defense. Don't get me wrong. I do like the pieces on their offense. But I just think, I don't know. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers can have enough to really wield that team in that division, in that conference. It's going to be very tough to get a good record out of that. We'll see kind of how him and DK, what that connection looks like. But I'm also not a believer in Arthur Smith anymore. I know he's been a good offensive coordinator, and he was a few years ago when he was in Tennessee. Last year was kind of, I get it. You know, you want to give him a little leeway because of the quarterback situation. You go from Justin, you go from Russ. Neither are really a good option. We'll kind of see. But he's a coordinator that likes his way and gets in his way sometimes. Gets in his own way sometimes. So we'll kind of see how it shakes out. But I don't see that team being top 2 in that division. So at 2, I do have the Bengals. Like you said, the defense has the potential to be worse than last year. It really does. Which is crazy. But you do go out and you do get Trey back. Very silly organization on that front as well, because we're going to go through this whole shit next week. Next year. Are you going to
silly organization? They smart shit. They
called
his bluff.
For that, yeah.
But you're going to go for the whole card.
They got what they wanted for sure. But we're going to go through this whole song and dance next year. Are you going to tag them? Are you not? There's going to be a whole saga. It's just, we'll kind of see how that all shakes out. But you go ahead and get Stewart. He's been at practice. I'm glad they got that situation figured out, because that was also a kind of a silly situation there, but they ended up getting what they wanted in that too. It seemed like. So I do have them coming there too. I just still believe in the offense. I think Chase Brown at running back has a big year to kind of complement those receivers. And then at 1, of course, the Ravens. Like you said, Chris, I think they're on a different kind of stratosphere than the rest of this division. They're just a better team overall. Some of them at like every level, you know. And I think they'll kind of show through, throughout the season. But I got the Ravens at number 1 easily.
Yeah. It's a lot of this division is interesting because I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, it's going to be the toughest division in the league, and I'm not so sure that I agree, even though I might say the same thing, throughout the year, and just because that's kind of how it's been historically. But I also have the Browns at 4.
Yeah.
It's hard because Kevin Stefanski is a 2-time two-time Coach of the Year winner, and he does have a Super Bowl winning quarterback as his quarterback. And obviously, we saw the last time Joe Flacco was with the Browns. They kind of got hot, even though he was throwing a lot of interceptions as well. But they were putting up a lot of points. And similarly with Jameis last year, they were moving the ball pretty well with Jameis up until the last couple games when the season was already over. So I can see the Browns surprising a few teams, at least in the beginning of the season, where, as you mentioned, the defense, with Myles Garrett could possibly be a little much more improved. I know that they had Martin Emerson get hurt toward his Achilles, so that's kind of something that hurts for them. But maybe with Mason Graham, the rookies that they drafted, they kind of improved there. But I just don't. The offense, it just seems like they're just like slopping things together to try to mix match and figure it out. Which, I mean, end of the day, they are taking their shots. I mean, they did feel like the receiver position was a weakness of theirs. They did go get Judy, did get Bond. They obviously signed Corley today as well. So Malachi Corley from the Jets. So they're trying. I don't know if that means anything, but I got the Browns at 4. At 3, I'm with you, Chris. The Bengals, even if you believe in their offense, you have to believe that their offense is not going to be as good as it was last year. And off that alone, they struggled to get to 9 wins last year with that offense, and their offensive line woes aren't going away because Joe Burrow is not necessarily. Joe Burrow has always been a guy that invites pressure a little bit more than he probably should because he's always scared in the field. He's not as athletic as, Lamar or Josh Allen, even though he does have athleticism. He does have good pocket movement, so I don't want to come across as like I'm saying that Joe is bad at evading sacks and stuff like that, moving around in the pocket, because he's not. But he does invite a lot of pressure. He does still take a lot of sacks. That is something that has been historically back to college. So I don't think that it changes even if they have the Eagles' offensive line. So on top of that, I have to believe in history where he was healthy last year. Is Joe Burrow going to be healthy throughout the entirety of this year? T. Higgins is always hurt throughout the season. So between the possibility of that, the possibility of Joe Burrow, the defense being what it is, even with Trey Hendrickson coming back, they didn't really add too much. They subtracted a lot. It looks to me, just from, as you mentioned, I do watch the Colts a little bit more closely than I watch every other team because it is my favorite team. The Colts DBs, even with the injuries that they've had, have looked extremely stout. They locked Lamar up when they did the joint practice. He didn't have a good practice against them. They've been getting their hands on balls in preseason. I mean, Malik Willis, but I'm not going to, he's not necessarily a great quarterback, so is the backup, so whatever the case may be. But they also had a good practice against him. It seems like Lou Anarumo, I say all that to say it seems like Lou Anarumo knows what he's doing. Even though they did bring in Al Golden, a guy that was on the staff with Lou Anarumo a couple years ago, between the personnel issues that they already had and lack of talent on that side, I just don't see any improvement there. So with that and the offense probably taking a step back, I got them at 3. At 2, I do have the Pittsburgh Steelers. You say you don't believe in Arthur Smith. I don't necessarily believe in Arthur Smith as well, but I believe in Aaron Rodgers being better than Russell Wilson. And that's 2 shots at Russell Wilson that I've had today. And I'm sorry, Russ. I'm trying to dog you out. I'm not trying to dog you out at all. But I just believe that Aaron Rodgers is better right now. And I think that, we could see a little bit of I think Aaron Rodgers got a little bit stronger as a player towards the end of last season. And I'm not saying that, he's going to be great by any means, but I think that he can be middle of the pack. And that's good enough for them to, be what they've been on top of the defense, adding all the pieces that they've added. They still have to figure out the Cam Hayward situation, but it seems like his teammates kind of grilled him a little bit and was like, all right, like, what are we doing here? Like, we're all in, so you need to be all in.
Lock in.
And it seems like he kind of was like, yeah, I get you. So I think that it will get worked out, but they do still need to figure that out. And they did get good news on their first round pick not being out for the season, obviously being out, for a few games, but he'll still be able to play this season, so should be good for them. And then ultimately the Ravens, 2-time, should be 3-time MVP at quarterback. I think this is the deepest roster that they've had since Lamar has been there. I think this is the best receiving group that they've had since Lamar has been there. I mean, not a lot of talk about DeAndre Hopkins, and probably rightfully so, given what we've seen, what we saw of him with Kansas City. But I do believe that, maybe he can, as the number 3 option, he can number 3 or number 4, depending on how you're looking at Mark Andrews. he can be a very, very good piece for them. On top of the fact that it seems like some of their younger receivers are developing a little bit. And then the defense, we've talked enough about it. They still need another piece defensively, in my opinion, and I'll get into that a little bit during our playoff when we talk about the playoffs. But I've got the Ravens winning the division once again. When we're talking about conversations about teams, we're going to start having conversations about the Cincinnati Bengals again. And not to say that anybody's leaving in terms of Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase, but T. Higgins. You might be trade bait, my boy, because they need some help. So I got the Ravens winning the division. We can go ahead and get into how we got the AFC playoffs shaken out and what the seeds look like. You want to go ahead and get us kicked off, Chris?
Yeah, man. So from 7 to 1, 7 had a little struggle with it. I was thinking between, but I changed my mind just at the last second. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the Jags there. I had the Bengals, but hey, man, the speech that Shaw just said, bro, I was just like, hell nah.
Oh, you let them get you.
I was like, man, nah, that offense gonna get them some Nah.
I'm just saying. I mean,
don't let them get you, man. Don't let them get you, man.
But yeah. So I got the Jags at 7. And then I got So I got the Jags at 7, and then at 6 coming in, I got the Steelers. I do got the Steelers making the playoffs, and then for my 5th seed, I have the Chargers, and then 4th seed, I got the Texans, and I got the Bills. And then this is where it gets interesting. I got Chiefs coming in at 2, and I got Ravens at 1. I got the Ravens getting the number 1 seed for the AFC this year. So that's mine.
Okay.
That's my lineup right there.
Okay. All right. 7 seed. I got the Dolphins. I got the Dolphins sneaking to the playoffs. I think how they do it is more important than what happens. And in that, I mean, like you mentioned, Shai, Mike McDaniel still might get fired even if they do make the playoffs. And I do think that kind of happens here. Well, where they get just ran through in that first game against my 2 seed, which I'll get to. But at 6, I got the Chargers. Yeah, pretty much said what I had to say about them. At 5, I have the Bengals. So I'm definitely higher on the Bengals than you guys are. But we'll kind of see how that all shakes out when it gets to the playoffs. But at 4, I have the Jags. At 3, I have the Bills as well, Chris. At 2, I have the Ravens. And at 1, you got to have the Chiefs. I don't think we talked about it too much. But, of course, we got the news today that Rashee Rice went ahead and accepted that 6-game suspension. It's going to start at the beginning of the year because I know it was kind of like, well, you know, he's going to play the first month. That was kind of the news that came out a few weeks ago. But you get out the way, you get those last 11 games in. I think that's enough time to get some rhythm, be ready for the playoffs. And I still think that they play without him long enough that it won't impact their regular season record too much, even without him those 6 games. So still got the Chiefs coming in at 1.
And one thing I do want to add about the Chiefs, you dumbass niggas that keep trying to say, oh, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl with Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who got cut, and Mecole Hardman. That was 3 years ago. Like, yes, what happened? Like, niggas don't look the same 3 years later. I'm sorry. Like, it is okay if they got cut a couple years later. Like, it's not the same player. Like, stop bringing that dumbass point up like it means something. Like, no, it doesn't. Like, it doesn't. So, anyway. Like, stop. I keep hearing people talk about it. Oh my God, like, Mecole Hardman just got cut by Green Bay. Like, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it's been years since that. Like, it's been years. Like, come on. But anyway, at 7, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Aaron Rodgers gets it done. He said that He has said that it's going to be his last year. I feel like it hasn't been talked about enough because I don't think that people necessarily believe that just because they know how Aaron Rodgers likes to stay in the headlines or whatever the case may be. But also another thing that I do want to mention as I'm saying that he likes to stay in the headlines, it feels like the Steelers have kind of been a little quiet. Like, they were really loud when everybody was talking about, oh, what are they going to do at quarterback? And they kind of always knew that it was going to be Aaron Rodgers, but like, I feel like nobody's really talked about him. Like, This preseason, it hasn't really been talked about. Obviously, they didn't, Aaron didn't play, DK didn't play, and stuff like that. But, I like the quietness. I'm just saying. Number 6, and this was tough, but I do have Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. I just think the rest of the AFC it's more about the rest of the AFC more than it is about them specifically, but I do think that their defense will be really good. And then, like I said, I think Sean Payton will keep them. I think he's a good coach, and I think like last year and even the year with Russ kind of proved to me that he's a better coach than I initially thought. Like, I didn't think when he went to the Broncos, I was kind of like, like people give him a lot of credit for the Saints, but I'm like, the Saints weren't necessarily like they won the Super Bowl, and in the last couple years they were really good, but like they weren't just necessarily like this in a division with Matt Ryan and Cam Newton. Like, I mean, Matt Ryan was dominating the division a couple years. Like, Cam Newton was when he was in his prime. Like, it was really Cam Newton's division for the most part, aside from like a couple years. So but he proved me wrong. At 5, I got the Chargers. Yeah, I think they'll be all right, but I think that I just can't have them much higher, obviously, because I mentioned some of the injuries that they've had. At 4, I've got the Houston Texans. Kind of where they've been the past 2 seasons. I don't think that changes, and really wouldn't change if it was the Colts, Jags, or Texans. Anybody but the Titans, they will all be at. At 3, I've got the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
Kansas City, I think that I do think that their offense will get back to being a little bit more explosive, but I do think that they will miss Rashee Rice those first 6 weeks. And the first 6 weeks are tough schedule. I know, some people have been trying to say they've got a tough schedule throughout. It's not the same when you're, you might think that the Raiders are good, but like it's still the Raiders until proven otherwise. Like, Raiders, not a tough game. I'm not saying like Broncos, I don't think are that tough. So I do think that the Chiefs will have a bit of a rough start and maybe even catch their first L next week. We'll see. But at 2, I have the Baltimore Ravens. They don't have, honestly, for the past few years, I feel like they've always had like a pretty tough schedule, but this year it really is not that bad, especially how I think the Bengals are going to be, and the Bengals can't beat them anyway, but it seems like whatever, mind share that if that was ever even a thing that the Steelers had in Lamar's head or the Ravens' head seems to have gone away. And then at number 1, I do have the Buffalo Bills getting that 1 seed that has eluded them for a few years and finally securing that. So I got the Bills winning or being the best team in the conference.
Getting into
the playoffs. But I mean, we can go ahead and get into how that playoff matchups will start to look. You guys want to start off in the NFC? And kind of re-go over what you guys had and get into the matchups?
Let's do it.
All right. So, just to go over what I had for NFC. 1 seed I had the Bucks, 2 I had the Eagles, 3 I had the 49ers, 4 I had the Lions, 5 I had the Packers, 6 I had the Commanders, and 7 I got the Rams. So, start off with my first matchup, Eagles versus Rams, baby. Let's get it. Yeah, we're gonna whoop their ass. You know what I'm saying? These four out here thinking that they had us by the ropes. They had us on the brink, Cash. You heard me? They had us on the brink, but nah, it's gonna be a good matchup for the first round. But I think we will edge out that victory. The next matchup, and the matchup is the 49ers versus the Commanders. I just think that the 49ers got something to prove. Obviously, they've been fairly good for the past few seasons, but obviously last year they had a lot of injuries. I think the experience of Kyle Shanahan is going to prevail in this one, and I think they're going to get the W. And then you got the Lions versus Packers, divisional game, divisional rival. But in my opinion, right now the Lions are just better than the Packers, so I think they'll get that victory. So that will make the next round for me to be the Lions versus the Bucks. And the Eagles versus the 49ers. Good matchups in my eyes, you know what I'm saying? Although I do have the Bucks winning, getting the number 1 seed, I do think they will go down to the Lions ultimately. I think that offense is just very much high power, and I think from last year, it's just the Lions one of the teams that's just been knocking on the door. They just been knocking on the door, so they got that experience, and I think they'll unfortunately beat Baker in the books. And then I got Philly versus the 49ers. They are a tough matchup for us. I'm not even gonna hold you. They are a tough matchup for us in general, but I think they say we sorry. They say we really shouldn't have beat them the other time we played them in playoffs. So we're gonna come back and get that dub, and then that's gonna make the matchup of the Lions versus the Eagles. And I do have the Lions winning that. I just think it's difficult to win, Super Bowl back to back, even going to one. That's usually most teams don't do that. It's a feat in and of itself to get back to the NFC Championship game, but I think the Lions, it will be a shootout at that point, in my opinion. I think the Lions' offense is that good still at this point in time, and I think they finally get over the hump and get to the Super Bowl.
Okay. Interesting.
The 49ers did come back and whoop that ass, though. I don't want you
to regular season, bro.
Don't forget that. Don't forget that, because Devo was going crazy. Hey, that's gonna be fun. Debo back, now that he's playing the Eagles 2 times.
That's gonna be crazy.
It's definitely gonna be fun.
It is. Okay. Are we doing all NFC? Okay.
Just go back, do NFC, and then we'll come back and do the playoffs for AFC. Bet. Or finish the playoffs for AFC.
For a reminder, 1 seed in the NFC I had the Lions, 2 seed I had the Bucks, 3 seed Eagles, 4 seed Rams, 5 seed Falcons, 6 seed Cowboys, 7 seed Seahawks. So first round, Bucks versus Seahawks. Got the Bucks winning that. I don't want to say easily, but I just think they're just an overall better team than the Seahawks are right now. So Bucks advancing, and then you have the Eagles versus the Cowboys, which, the Eagles will win that because the Cowboys are, they had a good season up to this point, but they can't beat the Eagles, especially not in the playoffs. You already know how that shit go. Then I got Rams versus Falcons. Very tough matchup. Kind of went back and forth on that, but I ended up going with the Rams anyway. They're at home. It's going to be a tough kind of matchup. Just going on the road, going all the way across country for that, especially with what the Rams have on both sides, or especially on both sides of the line. So that leaves my second round matchups to be Lions versus Rams and Bucks versus Eagles. I have the Lions beating the Rams, and I have the Bucks beating the Eagles. I don't want to say they kind of got the Eagles number.
They got our fucking number.
But they do. They do. And I think that kind of shows up in this playoffs as well, Chris, to be honest with you. And then, the Lions-Rams game, of course, that's like, I don't want to say like, what, third year in a row, or at least the second year in a row. And of course, you had the Lions versus the Rams.
First game of the season last year.
First game of the season. But I do have the Lions pulling that one out. I think just overall a better team. And then that Lions-Bucks in the NFC Championship. I had the Lions as well, Chris. So we kind of match up on that. I had the Lions beating the Bucks in the NFC Championship. Of course, they're at home. I kind of think you'll see Baker really under pressure that game, and I think that'll be kind of the stick in it. But that'll be a good matchup to see.
Interesting.
Very.
All right, so as a recap for my NFC playoff picture, I have the Lions number 1, the Bucks number 2, the Eagles the 3 seed, the 49ers at 4, with the Vikings being 5, Seahawks being 6, and the Cowboys rounding out at 7. I do want to say,
been
a lot of we didn't talk about it yet. And it's probably not too much to talk about, but there's been a lot of smoke around Micah Parsons to the Packers. I personally think it probably is a little bit more of David Morgetta kind of playing some little games here. But if the Cowboys trade Micah Parsons, specifically to the Packers, but really to any team, unless they get some type of I don't know, let's say they trade him to the Texans and they end up getting Danielle Hunter back or something like that, Cowboys are out. Yeah. So I just want to keep that caveat.
Same thing for me. I ain't gonna lie. Well, I need a mulligan on that because that is changes everything.
I'm just putting that out there. I'm getting that on the record so nobody can hold me to this. But that leads, so first round, I have the Bucks going against the Cowboys, which is a matchup that we've seen. And obviously the Cowboys were the team that retired Tom Brady. I think the Cowboys end up coming out on top Once again,
That's interesting.
if Micah Parsons isn't there, all of that changes.
Okay.
I have the Eagles going against the Seahawks. And I think that is actually going to be the best game of the weekend. But I have the Eagles winning in a close game. Then finally rounding out, I have the Niners going against the Vikings. And I have the Niners winning that one. So that leaves us with Eagles versus Niners. So a matchup that I also had, and Cowboys versus Lions, a matchup that not happened in the playoffs, but obviously they did have a blowout win last year with the Lions. And then a couple years ago, we all remember the end of game snafu with Dan Skipper and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I have the Niners winning that game and beating the Eagles in the divisional round, and I have the Cowboys finally losing again to not make the NFC Championship against the Lions. So, championship game is the Lions versus the Niners, and
rematch.
Very reluctantly have the 49ers winning that game and getting into the Super Bowl again. So that rounds me out for the NFC side of things with the Niners being the representative. We can go ahead and get back into the AFC side. Chris, if you want to go ahead and get us kicked off.
All right, so my first matchup for the AFC side will be the Jaguars versus the Chiefs. Chiefs gonna win that one. They got obviously more experience. I don't think the Jaguars they're lucky to be there at this point, but Chiefs gonna handle their business. Then the next, I got the Bills and the Steelers. I think this is a sneaky good matchup in general, just because of the Steelers' defense. But again, I don't know. They often seem to, just disappear in the playoffs or whatnot. So I just feel like the Bills gonna take that W. And then the next matchup is a rematch from last year. I got the Chargers and the Texans, and this time around the Chargers will win this game. I got the Chargers coming out on top on this game. Yeah. So that will leave the Chargers versus the Ravens and the Chiefs rematch versus the Bills. For the Chargers and the Ravens, obviously I got the Ravens winning. I just think they're gonna dominate that game. It's just all around better team. It's no shame to lose that game if you're the Chargers. The Ravens is just a better team at this point in time. And then I got the Chiefs and the Bills. The Bills finally get over a hump and beat Mahomes. They finally do it. They finally get that monkey out the bat. But unfortunately, that shit ain't gonna matter because that's the only team that could beat the Ravens, and the Ravens gonna beat the Bills. So I got the Ravens going to the Super Bowl.
Oh man.
Okay.
That
will be the storylines and the headlines after the Chiefs or after the Bills. If the Bills were to beat the Chiefs and then lose
to the Ravens,
it's gonna be nonstop hate, boy.
Nonstop. I don't know. They said on first things first today that'll be good for Josh. They said that's what they said.
Okay.
Nah, I like it, Chris. All right. So my 2-7 matchup in the AFC would be Ravens versus Dolphins. That is a rout, and I think that's the game that gets Mike McDaniel. 3 versus 6. I got Bills Chargers, and I think the Bills come out on top of that one. Be too much for the Chargers to handle. And I just think the Chargers offense won't be able to score enough to kind of keep up with that. And then 4 or 5, I got Jags versus Bengals, and I got the Bengals winning that over the Jags. So my second round matchups are Chiefs versus Bengals, and then Ravens versus Bills. Which
Chiefs scared of the Bengals. That's what I heard.
And I got the Chiefs winning that over the Bengals. They get that monkey off their back, and I think they're really charged up about that and getting that kind of narrative that Jim Burrow can kind of fuck with Patrick Mahomes on that level. I think that kind of ends that. Ravens versus Bills. I have the Ravens winning that one. We kind of seen, the matchup before. I just think the Ravens are overall complete team, more complete team than the Bills are. So Chiefs versus Ravens, AFC Championship, and I have the Ravens pulling it out and making it to the Super Bowl. Look now, and we talked about it when we were talking about our division. Look, the Ravens, you got to make some noise. You got to make some noise this season, man. We can't keep going to doing the whole song and dance over and over and over again. So I got them winning, making it to the Super Bowl. We'll kind of see what happens with the, between those two matchups. But yeah.
Well, for my 2-7 matchup, I have a rematch from the playoffs this year with the Ravens going against the Steelers. And I think the Ravens get that one. Of course, the Steelers lose their annual wild card game. And actually, these are all a bunch of rematches basically. So my 3 and 6 seed is Chiefs versus Broncos. So another divisional matchup, meeting in the playoffs for the first time, under the Bo Nix, Sean Payton, and obviously Pat Mahomes and stuff like that. But I got the Chiefs winning that game in a close game, a low scoring game. And then I also have the Texans versus the Chargers, again with the Chargers winning the game this go round as well. Now this is where things get interesting, and this is what I wanted to talk about a little bit that I hinted on before. Chargers versus Bills, Ravens versus Chiefs. You guys keep mentioning that the Ravens have to do something, as well as everybody basically. The Ravens or the Bills have to get over the hump this year, at least make it to the championship, or at least beat Pat Mahomes, whatever the case may be. Both teams, both head coaches need to prove that they are not shitting themselves every time they get to the playoffs. First of all. Second of all, something that I've been thinking about over the past couple weeks, comparatively to the Chiefs, because one thing that's been going around a lot is that, everybody always comes at Lamar for his, he always has his worst game, wherever the case may be. Not true in the playoffs. But hey, that's neither here nor there. But there has been some stuff going around on social media that's kind of been like, yeah, Lamar has had turnovers, but so has Pat, so has Josh, so has all these other quarterbacks. But look at what their defense has done. Defense has been getting sacks. Defense has been getting pick sixes, stuff like that. The Ravens basically are non-existent for being as dominant as defenses as they've had and being a team that's been known for their defense. I do think that more so than anything, more so than the Josh Allen fumbling or Lamar fumbling, it has been the fact that the Chiefs have had Chris Jones, a guy that they can always rely on to get pressure in the biggest moments, where the Bills tried to swing for the fences and do it with Von Miller, but obviously he was hurt. Greg Rousseau is a good player. He's not that, though. And the Ravens really have not had a single edge rusher or dominant pass rusher just in general. I mean, Kyle Van Noy was like their leading sack guy last year. They have been more so led by having great, DBs and stuff like that. So between that, the two coaches, can somebody on that defensive line for either of those teams step up and be a guy? Not sure that is possible, just based on maybe Mike Green. Maybe Mike Green. But I think both of those two teams, more than anything, need that guy to get over the hump. With that being said, Chargers versus Bills, I went back and forth on this a lot, and I really wanted to pick the Chargers, but I am going to go with the Bills, as well as going with the Ravens, upsetting the Chiefs, and we're having a Ravens-Bills AFC Championship. I think that will be a kind of a monkey off their back, but they will still have a lot to prove, both teams.
That shit gonna feed family.
Yeah, it will. And I do have the Ravens making it to the Super Bowl. So my Super Bowl matchup is the Ravens versus Niners. And I have the Ravens winning the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson being the Super Bowl MVP. Cross my fingers.
We're not supposed to have all the same picks, but I also have my Super Bowl matchup is Ravens Lions, and I had the Ravens pulling that one out.
I'll switch that shit up, man. My Super Bowl matchup is also Ravens Lions.
I mean, hey,
I just think if he could just get over I know, like we said, it ain't Lamar, it's the team. If they could just get over the one hump, I honestly think no NFC team can really fuck with the Ravens in general. So that's why if they go to the Super Bowl,
that's what I'm saying.
I don't think there's nobody in his way but the one and only Patrick.
The only teams
at that point you gotta John.
I think I ain't gonna lie to you. I think if any of the Bills or the Ravens get into that bitch, they are going nuclear in the Super Bowl. I think no matter who they see, I think the Eagles will be the only. Well, I wouldn't even say the Eagles this year just because of
we got a lot of turnover on defense.
The DBs really make me nervous.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to see the Ravens versus Eagles last year as opposed to the Chiefs.
That would have been some fireworks right there, boy.
So, I mean, hey, they got to get over the hump, but I do think that that's something that hasn't been talked about enough is just that need for a dominant defensive. Because who on the Ravens has made an impact? I mean, obviously, I know you got Kyle Hamilton, you got Roquan, you got, Marlon Humphrey and stuff like that. But, Matabuike he's a really good player.
he was on that trajectory, and then last season he kind of just
he's good. He got better at towards the end of the season as their whole defense did. But between them, the Bills, I mean,
yeah.
we
was
saw
that 2 years ago? What's his name? Clowney was good in the season. Then the playoffs, he just.
And we saw Chris Jones, with the Chiefs not being as good offensively, Chris Jones, and not only Chris Jones, but obviously Spagnuolo and just the defense as a whole has stepped up tremendously. Snead and McDuffie a couple of years ago, but we did see specifically Chris Jones being the guy to make the plays. He was the guy that a couple of years ago when Buffalo finally got their first chance at having the Chiefs at home, it was Chris Jones who pushed the lineman into Josh Allen that led to Josh Allen overthrowing the touchdown that probably would have won the game. It was Chris Jones that made made plays against the Ravens that kind of crippled them in that AFC Championship. So it's where's the guy going to step up for the Bills or the Ravens or really any team in the AFC? Maybe it is a Will Anderson if the Texans can put it together. Maybe it is, if the Colts somehow put it together, Aliatu Latu, like who is going to be the guy to step up on defense outside of, the offense? You want to see them do that. Who's going to be the guy on defense, whether it's a edge rusher, which I think it has to be a lineman or an edge rusher, some in some capacity. Who's going to be that guy to step up in the AFC playoffs? So that's going to be something that'll be interesting to see this year. Hopefully, we'll see. Or maybe it's just going to be the Chiefs again, and people are going to say it's rigged because Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce just got married or engaged or whatever the case may be.
Say honeymoon season.
So you guys all saying Lamar Jackson MVP, Super Bowl MVP?
Yeah, got to. I think, yeah. I was about to say, I think Derrick Henry kind of gets out of there and goes out on top there. But he did sign an extension, but I really don't think that matters too much if you're able to.
If he wins a championship.
If he wins a championship, you got to call this shit a wrap, bro. Get on out of there.
Switching from Super Bowl MVP to regular season MVP, let's go ahead and get into our last 4 awards. Excuse me. Obviously, we went through the offensive rookie or the rookies of the years last year. Rookies of the year last week. Went over the protector of the year as well as comeback player. So this week, going through the MVP, the players of the year, both offense and defense, and the coach of the year. Starting off with the coach of the year, who you guys got and why?
So for coach of the year, I think a lot of time, well, not really, but I just think we have a lot of new coaches this year, so that could possibly, land a lot of them depending on how they do with their teams. But I'm gonna go ahead and go with Ben Johnson. I just feel like he's one of the coaches that it tends to be coaches that people like. Yeah, people like Ben Johnson. They think he's so innovative, all this extra stuff, which is cool. And I think that how Caleb does this year, whether it doesn't have to be like they have to have a great record, but if he shows that he was worthy of the number 1 pick this year, Ben Johnson is going to win coach of the year. So I got Ben Johnson.
Okay. All right. For me, I got Dan Campbell, and that comes with, of course, where I have him finishing 1 seed in the NFC. But also the narrative part of it matters. So losing both your coordinators, but still being that top seed in the NFC, I think he gets a lot of credit for that. He has to at that point. He hasn't won it yet, so he's been close. So I got Dan Campbell.
I too have Dan Campbell, an award that he probably should have won. Maybe last year. Maybe obviously Kevin O'Connell won last year because of the not everybody expected that, but the Vikings with their starting quarterback getting hurt. But it has been an award that, he's probably deserved that has kind of eluded him. As Cass mentioned, the narratives with both OC and DC being gone, as well as losing assistant coaches, as well as losing your center. Even though people still think the Lions are going to be good, there has been a lot of questions around that. And I think that this is kind of the culmination for him from where things started, when he initially got hired and everybody, basically chopping it up to just being a big dumb meathead head coach to being
them knees.
Yeah, being the head coach of the year, as well as having a team that is the number 1 in the conference back-to-back years. I think will be huge for him. So I also have Dan Campbell as my coach of the year. But getting into the defensive player of the year, been an interesting one. Struck out tremendously over the past couple years. So I'm interested to see who you guys got and why.
Yeah. I like the fact that they let a DB get it last year. I don't think they'll let that happen again anytime soon. But I actually got Max Crosby. I think for the hype around, in general, the Raiders, and with the addition of Pete Carroll, I just think he's going to dominate this year. He's one of them guys that we talked about how he pretty much don't get off the field. He got that high motor. But I think with the addition of just Pete Carroll and he being the only person really on that defense for real, I think he's gonna, dominate this year and get the DPOY.
Okay.
You started off a little crazy with that one.
POY. Hey, that POY will hold
it. I took a little too long. My bad.
So, like you said, because they did go to DB last year, which is kind of like, I know how we kind of lean edge rushers, we lean D lineman year after year. But I think a trend starts here. And I'm going to go with Kyle Hamilton, the guy who just got new $100 million, Kyle Hamilton. Of course, that coincides with how good I think the Ravens will be this year. And like you said, who's going to step up? Is it going to be on the defensive line? I don't know. But Kyle Hamilton could definitely be that guy that steps up throughout the regular season. That shows that he's worthy of this Defensive Player of the Year. So I got Kyle Hamilton.
So actually I don't reserve the right to change this one. But got Micah Parsons.
I feel you're going to do that. I feel it.
Is I have a feeling that he, like I said, I do think that the agent is playing a little media games right now, because as you see,
why are you throwing out 45? Why are you throwing out the number 45 now?
The number 45 is out there. He wasn't necessarily, he hasn't been granted permission to request or to have conversations with other teams. So how did you land on a deal? Like, how is the compensation being had? All this, there's a lot of questions there. And if you peep, none of the mainstream guys have yet hopped on the bandwagon.
Yep.
Yeah. So hopped on the Packers or Micah going to the Packers bandwagon just yet. So I have Micah Parsons coming in. Jerry gets his wish where the soap opera runs and he's able to take the shine from the Eagles Super Bowl opening night by signing Micah Parsons, just like he signed Dak Prescott the day of the game. And it'll probably be announced right during the Eagles having a little bit of their celebration. Have that feeling. And I think Micah comes in. He has a big game to start the season, even maybe in a loss. We'll see next week when we get into our picks. But he kind of dominates throughout the entirety of the season and becomes the Defensive Player of the Year.
One thing to add on, because it's NFC East this year for Hard Knocks. And I think that on top of everything else will definitely push that narrative forward, especially if he's balling. It's going to be interesting. Kind of hard. They're smart for getting that division this year for sure.
Yep. Getting into the Offensive Player of the Year. Obviously, we kind of saw, the running backs go wild last year, as well as one receiver be the Triple Crown winner. So it made for an interesting race there. But who you guys got and why?
Like you said, for the Defensive Player of the Year, Kaz, I think it's a trend going on with the Offensive Player of the Year. The resurgence of the running backs, they're trying to, prove their worth to everybody. So I do got a running back. Win Offensive Player of the Year. It's your boy. I got Bijan Robinson win Offensive Player of the Year. I think for that offense or for that team, for your team to reach the goals that they need, that they want to reach, they have to lean on him this year. Michael Penix, he's not a rookie, but obviously he only played a few games last year, and I think for him to start off, you're going to have to, run the ball, get him into some screens, some passes and whatnot. And I think he's going to have a crazy year this year. So I got him winning Offensive Player of the Year.
I hope so. That would be great. I was going to look, you know me. I was going to go with Bijan Robinson, but I was like, okay, I'm not going to be a homer. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb.
Okay.
And that kind of ties in how the jump I expect the Cowboys to make from last year. I think the addition of George Pickens will definitely help out in all of this as well. We'll kind of see what the run game looks like, but, Jadon Blue could be a guy. You still got Javonte Williams there, so we'll kind of see how the run game is. But I think that also fuels the fact that they'll have to end up leaning on their pass game. And, of course, CD has been that guy. He was hurt last year. He got the shoulder thing, of course, along with Dak. but they seem to be both fine now. So I think CD has a huge year this year.
Okay. I too have a running back, but it is not Bijan Robinson. It seems like every year they've been trying to give that man an award. Maybe we should probably stop. But no.
Hey man. It's only been 2 years, man.
But no, I had the guy that I've been kind of raving about. Well, I would say kind of raving about, but I've talked about him a couple times recently in terms of his season comparatively to Saquon Barkley's season last year. And I think Derrick Henry has another phenomenal season. He's been not the only, but the main guy to show that he has the durability similar to running backs of old. I think that the Ravens have kind of figured out that, they were kind of going back and forth at least initially at the beginning of the year between trying to, merge the how Lamar likes to run things versus how getting Derrick Henry acclimated into the offense. Should we pass more? Should we run more? I think that they have found that happy balance. And I think that he, again, has another huge season where it seems like the man's getting 10 carries and he's going for 120 yards and a touchdown. It seems like he always breaks some big, much like Saquon last year where, Saquon just kept breaking like these 60-yard touchdown runs. Derrick Henry, maybe not touchdowns, but he was breaking a lot of long runs. And I think that we see a lot of that, again, where they're able to also keep him fresh with Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell coming back fully healthy this season. So I have Derrick Henry kind of repeating, maybe even having very, very similar stat line, 1,900 yards, 15 touchdowns-ish around there. I could see him having that again and using this season to kind of run him into Hall of Fame as a running back and being one of the last few bell cow running backs that get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Super Bowl and offensive player. Yeah. He gonna retire.
Yeah, for sure. No question.
No
question. Unless he feel, unless Mike Green starts snapping, he like, hey, got this young bull. He can run this shit back. Because and it also, we talk about it a lot, and I know I talk about it a lot, and we've talked about it a lot. But I know it's one of my favorite things when we do talk about Super Bowls and stuff like that. We start getting into that championship, that time towards the end of the playoffs and stuff like that. One thing that would be super cool: Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins coming back together, winning one. Obviously they were rivals, but did get to play with each other briefly. I think that would be pretty cool for them. And we might see D-Hop also after getting a taste of the Super Bowl in an L last year. Maybe he gets a dub this time and he kind of goes out on the top as well. So. But the biggest award of them all, the NFL MVP, obviously Lamar and Josh Allen were in a tight race for it last year, with Josh Allen kind of getting the quote-unquote charity trophy. So, even though he was well deserving of it. So I'm not trying to talk shit. He was well deserving of it, but I know a lot of people do think that it probably should have went to that guy that was first team All-Pro. Hey, neither here nor there. Who you guys got and why?
All right, so for my quarterback of the year award,
yeah, man.
They
honestly should just do like position.
That's what I was thinking about that shit on the way home. I was like, bro, why wouldn't they just say quarterback of the year? Because at this point, that's what it is. It is.
I'm just saying all across the board, like running back of the year.
Oh
would be
well,
cool.
yeah, like
receiver
they do
of the year would be cool. Yeah,
but I got Patrick Mahomes. I think he's just going. I think this year he's determined. This year, I just feel like even though obviously he's missing Rice, but hey, he didn't have Rice last year anyway. So, like you said, Kat, he probably used to it by now. But I just think this year, I think it's a narrative that's running around, just a little quietly narrative, but they just trying to act like he's an ass now or whatever. So he's gonna go out there show some folks. Travis and Taylor get married, so she gonna be at every game now. So. I just think it's going to be a good year for Mahomes, and I think he's going to win the MVP.
Damn, Chris, I wanted to be different, but I also got Patrick Mahomes on this. I'll tell you who my runner-up was, though, since you talked a lot about Patrick. Yeah, so allow me this mulligan. Baker. was going to be my second one. And I think that kind of leads into, again, the record that I think the Tampa Bay Bucks will have this season. And I think him kind of cementing himself as one of those top, quarterbacks in the league, maybe in top 5. But I got Patrick Mahomes winning this. I think, like you said, he's on a mission this year. I think the narrative has already started. They're already talking about the light show being back. It's very possible they had a great, I get it, it's preseason, whatever, but it's a great showing out there in the preseason from their offense. So I think they get the ball rolling pretty quickly. And I think that happens. It starts next Friday. And I think they continue on. So I got Patrick Mahomes winning MVP this season. It's tough for him because it's always going to be tough for him. When you come out in your first full season, you throw for 50 fucking touchdowns. It's always going to be tough because I don't think he might not reach that plateau again. But at the same time, I think he balls out this season.
I do think that it'll be pretty easy. Like, he's kind of in a good position where if he does start having like a bunch of explosive touchdowns, especially to start the season, the narrative is going to pick up very quickly.
Very, very quickly.
Very quickly. And I also think that the narrative for Josh Allen also could pick up very quickly if they have a fast start, just because people are going to be like, oh, no, it ain't just a charity or whatever the case may be. It wasn't just a giveaway. But I am going to be the person that has the surprise here. And my MVP of the season is a guy that will solidify his spot as a unlikely top 6 quarterback in the league. Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions.
Wow.
Jared Goff was second in passing yards last year. I believe he was either 3rd or 4th in passing touchdowns last year. Had a bit of a bad way to end the season, obviously with getting nicked and possibly having a concussion. I don't know, being in concussion protocol during the playoff game, having to come out, and then as well as having the pick sixes that he had and stuff like that. I think that the entire Lions team has something to prove this year, and I think that Jared Goff will kind of be the steadying force for them. And I think that he's kind of slowly started to get a little bit more respect than what people have been, because everybody's been trying to say it's Ben Johnson, it's been Sean McVay in the past. I think this year he has another phenomenal season, and you really run out of people that you can give credit for. And we finally give Jared Goff the credit that he is due, and he wins his first and probably only NFL MVP, and starts getting into some interesting conversations there. So I got Jared Goff as my NFL MVP, rounding out another Cinderella season for the Detroit Lions.
That would be great for him if he could do that. That would be great.
That would be it would be great. It would be interesting. I feel like, one thing that I have seen now that, other, the mainstream networks are doing their previews and stuff like that. We're starting to overcorrect a little bit too much on the Bucks. I don't know. It's starting to make me be like, do I need to be out on the Bucks? Because everybody all of a sudden is loving the Bucks. Not saying us, but because we've been talking about them, and we probably didn't give them enough respect over the past couple years. But
yeah, I've been saying that too, though. I've been saying it too.
Everybody's saying something about the Bucks, and I'm like, making me want to pull back a little bit, because I'm like, okay, y'all really liking Baker now, because a couple years ago it was, oh, he's too cocky. We don't want Baker on the team. His career might be over, whatever the case may be. So between the Bucks and the Commanders.
Yeah. That Commander shit gonna be that. Look, I cannot wait to see how that shakes out.
It's gonna be very interesting.
That's gonna be a story, and
it's gonna be very interesting. It's gonna be very, very interesting. But that gives us another wrap for the Speak Up Sports podcast and our last podcast before we officially get into the NFL season. So next week we will get into the first picks of the year. We'll start off 0-0, and we'll finally be here. Getting into banner night with the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Cowboys next Thursday. And we will see you guys then.
Hey, Hot Seat Watch coming back too. Woo-hoo! Yes, sir.